and welcome to Teachers Talking Teaching. On our podcast, we elevate and celebrate all that's wonderful about teaching. I'm Traci Gile, and I'm here with my good friend, Tracy Bean.
Welcome back with us this week. And so we have a very special guest with us this week. We have Nate Balk, and he is a high school math teacher. And Nate and I had the privilege of working together. Well, I should say I had the privilege of working with him because I signed up for one of his professional development classes and was totally ignited in learning more math myself. So Nate, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. We always like to start with guests about kind of since we're elevating teaching, we would like to start with, how did you get into teaching? What's your teaching origin story, if you will?
So my mom and dad both taught. They're now retired through teaching, full careers of middle school music, and then high school, everything from business to computers to FBLA and geography and all of that. So they both taught. My grandma taught. My uncle is a professor. His two sons are professors. My sister is currently a teacher. My sister-in-law teaches. So I think it's in the family, to say the least. But one thing that always drew me in was my mom and dad were always around. They were always around for summer. I was playing baseball, I was playing tennis. They could make all my events. I just love that part of the story where I had an active mom and an active dad that could make a difference inside a school district with teenagers or middle schoolers, or my sister teaches elementary, can make a difference during the day in their work, and then they can come home and be active with their kids. So I kind of knew it going in, even like high school. I was like, I think I want to teach. I looked up to teachers, having my mom as teachers, mom and dad being teachers, and then kind of witnessing that type of environment. I really looked up to them as role models. It's interesting, though, my mom and dad didn't want me to teach. I think they were maybe getting at the end of their careers and getting a little worn out, and they wanted the classic, like, oh, you could do so much more. And I lost it on them. I said, I look up to you guys so much. You didn't need to do so much more. You already did so much for our small town, and all of the kids that have walked through your rooms and then have come back afterwards, after graduation, and walked through your rooms. I've seen you make such a difference. I want to make that same difference. And so it was interesting kind of battling with them just a little bit back and forth, them going, I think you should be an engineer. I think you could do more. You could do more. I'm like, what do you mean do more? And so I was kind of disheartened by that, or confused by that, going like, you've done so much. I've looked up to you, and you see a different lens of what I can be. But it's interesting that within the first moment of me student teaching, or in the first moments of me coming home with my first lesson, Mom, Dad, look what I did. They knew it, and they knew it, and they've changed heart immediately. This is maybe my 13th year, 14th, 15th year of teaching. And immediately from the beginning, they're like, that's you. It's who you're supposed to be. We can see your passion, compassion inside the classroom. But I always still laugh, and I kind of rib them a little bit, like, hey, remember that time when you thought I wasn't supposed to be a teacher? And it also kind of comes back to that, what's the quote? Those who can't do teach, which is a quote that just bugs me. Our high school yearbook had those superlatives about, best smile, best eyes, all that. And there's one girl and one boy voted most likely to succeed. And I get the award, and one of my friends gets the award, and it's nothing about, oh, look at me, tap on the back. What's interesting is our student body voted on us to be most likely to succeed, and we're both math teachers. And in my head, I think that's a cool, flipping the culture upside down, saying, I think we did it. I think we're succeeding. We are making a difference. But when you look back at that yearbook, I wonder how many people go, oh, you're the teacher. Well, I'm the millionaire. And just those perspectives. Is it on money? Is it on what elevates you to be successful? When I went to college, knowing I was going to be a teacher, I actually have my master's in engineering. And when I went into the engineering program at my school, I could major in applied mathematics. So I wasn't a specific civil, chemical, electrical. applied mathematics. And there's two types of math that you can get at colleges. The one that's a given almost across all the colleges is more the pure math. And that's where most of whoever wants to be a math teacher, most of them go through the pure math route, more arts and science route, easier connection to the education school. And I went through the engineering route, but as an applied math major, they always want you to minor in a specific. So since you're taking the broad approach to engineering and majoring in all of the math that can be found in any of those engineering courses, they go, okay, you're applied math, but your emphasis is civil, perfect, or electrical, what do you want? And I kind of raised my hand and was talking to the dean or the counselor at the time, and I'm like, so I need education. And again, there's that kind of head scratch. You're in the wrong program then. You want to be a teacher, you should be in the pure math program, not the engineering program. There's a huge deviation there. Are you an engineer or are you a teacher? Again, it felt like those who do and those who can't or whatnot. And I go, no, I'm a teacher. I'm going to teach math and I want the engineering background so I can apply this to my kids in their high school. And it took them a while, and they're like, so you want to merge engineering and education? I go, yeah, that should be a given, of course. Yeah. But it was kind of cool. I was the first to do it, and now in that applied math program at the university I graduated from, it's a listed option. And now it's like you can be applied math with a minor in education because we built the course load that would fulfill those requirements. And so it's interesting that, again, there's a little moment, as I'm in high school or now I'm in college where it's still the world wants to question, are you sure that this is what you want to do? And it's like, yes, I do want to be there. And now what's great is I teach high school math and I teach freshmen and sophomores geometry. And I teach a geometry class that are for kids that need a little bit slower pace, need a little bit more accommodations. So it's one end of the curriculum, early level geometry with a slower speed. And then I also teach Calc 1, 2, and 3. And so my high school is on a semester system, which is, I would say, kind of rare in the high school realm. People are used to block system where you have 90 minutes for a class, but they're used to A days and B days. So whatever math you want to take, if you want to take Algebra 2, you take it for the entire year. Well, at my school, you take it every single day for the 90 minutes. So instead of kind of splitting it every other day for the long year, you get it done in a semester. So instead of 8 classes every other day, 4 each, you have 4 classes every day until semester's over. And then you start again with 4 new classes. So a high school kid can have, instead of 4 years of high school, they kind of get 8 semesters of high school. And that's how we can get to Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3. That is so rare in the nation to offer that. And for me, it's a blessing because I get that spectrum again. Freshmen, sophomores, slower geometry, Calc 1, 2, 3, juniors and seniors roaring and taking college level classes. And with my engineering background, I can help lay that foundation for them because a lot of them do want to become those engineers. And it's not just, I know the calc from the textbook, I lived it. And so that's kind of takes me up to current day where I'm at. So
I'm super intrigued that how did you know that taking that engineering pathway would help you be a better math teacher? Like when did that connect for you?
Yeah, I think there's all those, I'm a visual learner. I'm a auditory learner. And the learner that I am, whatever this name is I want to apply it. I want to know the why, and then I want to use that why. And if I don't know where to use it, and it just turns in, especially math, if you don't have the why and the vision to where you could go with it, then it's back to plug and chug. And here's a formula, plug, chug, there's an answer. Yay, good job. What was it for? I don't know. Just do this formula and practice it 30 times.
Right.
And then that's what a lot of, when people from the outside world kind of look in on a math classroom. So you do section 7.1, which is on page 250, and then you assign 1 through 50 odd, and it's always odd because the answers are in the back of the book.
Yes.
And it's you go from here to here, you got your answer. You go from here to here, you got your answer. It's all about the destination.
Right.
And too often in the math world, people love it or hate it because there's an answer. Everyone thinks it's so black and white there's an answer. And so some feel that's restrictive and constrictive, going like, I can never find the answer in this game of hide and seek. I can never find the answer, so I hate math. I despise math. Or people are always like, I'm the best seeker. Boom, got the answer. What's it for? Doesn't matter. I have the answer. And in my classes and how I learn, I don't really care about the answer at all. I'll even on a test, here's the answer. Tell me how or why you can journey to that answer. And so I think for me being a journeyman, I want to discover. I don't care about the destination. I care about the path that got me there. I think that's the applied route for me is when I hear the word applied, it gives me not only a path to an answer, but then it passes right through that answer and goes, and this is where it can lead you. So
where were you when I was taking
geometry? So true. Which kind of leads into like I think the philosophy you've had in helping develop some PD in our district is that elementary teachers, we have to be jacks of all trades. We have to know all subjects well, and we don't. Like in reality, math in a lot of cases is our weak link because we know it well enough to teach the grade we're in and not beyond. And so talk about how you've developed some of those PDs and your kind of philosophy behind that idea that increasing the knowledge of teachers' math helps them be better teachers. I know it's kind of your philosophy. So can you talk about
so I teach a professional development classes for the district, and they're in the summer or they're during the school year, and we've been doing this for maybe 3-4 years. And I proposed this to the district saying I want to teach K through 12. And 1 week I'll do elementary, next week I'll do middle school, and the next week I'll do high school. But here's the caveat. I'm not teaching 3 different topics. I want to teach one topic to all of them. And yes, it will be grouped into elementary 1 week, middle school, and then high school. And it was interesting, not only from the district, but also from the potential feedback of teachers wanting to take it. I heard from high school teachers, so you just want to teach me some secondary, or not secondary, some elementary math. That's not what I want. Like, you're not going to push the envelope for me. And then elementary teachers in the districts were trying to register for the class, and they go, wait a second, this is Nate Balk, who is a high school math teacher who I know teaches Calc 1, 2, 3. So I'm a second grade teacher and I'm trying to get something out of a calculus teacher. And so the whole district kind of was, are you sure about this? How can high school teachers learn something from elementary? How can elementary learn something from high school? And I'm blessed that they gave me a chance. And I'm blessed that teachers gave me a chance as well to teach to all of them, and really not teach to them, play with them. And kind of to comment, Tracy, I think the more a teacher has their own story of math, their own passion for playing with math, kids feel it. We were talking earlier offset about books and just, hey, what book are you reading? Oh, I read that book too. And there's all of a sudden a dialogue of who's your favorite character, and do you remember that scene? Or people talk about it with movies or sports or whatnot. There's a story when a student knows their teacher is engaged in activity A, B, and C, it can draw them in. And I think you're right on the jack of all trades. I admire elementary teachers where it's like, okay, hour 1, math. Hour 2, reading. Hour 3, science. Hour 4, just corral these energetic kids at recess or whatnot. Where I'm math and I'm math and I'm math and I'm math all day long. And so bringing the games and riddles and those puzzles and stories back to the hearts of what I think we all grew up with. I think through the rigor of math, or the linearity of math, of just how structured it is, what every kid once had with their love of puzzles and games and riddles and those storytelling pieces, it turned back into the formulaic plug and chug, plug and chug, plug and chug. And now you either love it or hate it because there's one destination. And so what I try and do in those classes is just retell the story, re-engage the hearts of what once was beating for games, and say, you loved it before, and someone might have stripped you out, might have stripped it away from you and turned it back into that very much it has to fit in a box. And with the PD itself, I love the elementary, and sometimes I go, oh boy, to the secondary, even though that's who I teach with. They're my colleagues. But the secondary teachers, they whatever prompt I give, they immediately seek the formula. And they want just, where's the formula? And then I have it. And that's when I present stories that have no formulas. And what's so great is the elementary teachers who don't want formulas. Don't give me this thing.
Know them.
Don't give me don't give me an X. Don't give me a variable. Don't say any of that stuff. Can we just visualize it? And do you have blocks? And can we just play and color code? And I'm like, yes. And so what's great is the insight I get from those elementary teachers on their vision to the problem. I love bringing it to the high school and the middle school as well, going, when they start trying to figure out formula, stop, no formula. But that's how I learned. No, you don't. That's what you think you need to do to learn. There's no formula to this problem. Well, then why'd you ask the question? Because I want you to think about it. But there's no formula, so there's no destination, so there's no end. Exactly.
Right.
And so, like in one of my calc classes, it took them, I think it was 5 weeks into this semester that they finally celebrated. They're like, you gave us a formula. It's a plug and chug day. Because the first 5 weeks, I call it think and link. And they're like, I don't want to think anymore, Mr. Balk. I don't want to link anymore. I just, can I please plug and chug?
It's familiar,
it
probably.
It is. My wife even just rolls her eyes at me and says, I would never want to take a class from you. That's not how I learned. And I think that's kind of my goal is to teach in a way that's not normal, that's not routine, so that the kids or the teachers kind of go, wow, there is stories behind the math. And I think that's always my passion, is those stories behind the math. I was talking to one of my students a couple weeks ago, and she goes, I was talking about you at the dinner table with my mom and dad, and what she kept telling mom and dad were the crazy stories that I was teaching or doing or whatnot. And the dad goes, that doesn't sound like anything like math. And the student goes, his daughter goes, Dad, but listen to me. The story brings with it the math. So a year from now, when I'm in college, if I just think of whatever random topic that he brought up for that day, I know the math lecture that happened around it. Instead of just, here's an X, here's a variable, go solve. If there was, Balk stood on a desk with his head upside down. Why? We don't really know. But here's the math that we learned from it. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Give me an example of the story. Like, I want to know what that looks and sounds like in your classroom. How do you create the story that helps the kids remember the math?
Putting me on the spot. And I think what I also think, what's funny is I can't tell you the story, not because it's right off the tip of my tongue. I don't even know what it is. And I think it might be the demeanor of the classroom, setting up a family community. We do share care time. And so like every day, hey, what'd you do last night? Why are you asking me that? I just want to know what's up. Are you sure? Yeah. Just what's up? What'd you do this weekend? What are you doing this next weekend? Why are you asking me these things? And then it'll be the same. Well, then they'll go, well, how was your weekend? I took my kids to a brand new park and we did this. And there's a slide. And on the slide, here's one coming up right now. At playgrounds, I call it a butt slide. And my whole class argued with me, it's not a slide. It's the corkscrews. And you might have them in the playgrounds here. Corkscrews that go up. Some are super tight, but some have a nice spatial part to it, and it's kind of like a spiral down. I told them, you sit on it, and you just twirl. And when you twirl, you go all the way down. And they're like, no, it's just a ladder. And I went ballistic with them, like, no. And so then we start pulling up photos. We try and find YouTube clips. And then I even had my son, at the time, who was 7, went down one, and I'm recording it like, hey, what was that? Oh, it's the butt slide. I love it. I'm like, yes, take it to the class. I'm like, that's what it's called. That's what a 7-year-old calls it. And then we were able to build a model to that and do a 3D model of actually how that spiral looks in a 3D graph model. And then we did a lot of calculus on it. But instead of just saying there's this thing called a spiral, part of a double helix, and we can just look at this thing that produces DNA, whatever. Okay, let's solve it. It came from the story of the butt slide that was actually a ladder, which we're still debating depending on your point of view of it. But then I have the video proof that my son went down it very naturally. Spin, 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 spin. Landed. Dad, that was butt slide. And I didn't even make him say that. And so that's the proof that I had. So then she probably took it home. Dad, we learned about butt slide. What's a butt slide?
Right.
It's a spiral
What
thing.
are they teaching you in math now?
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, I wish it was old math again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But that's a great segue to, because the last 2 episodes we've been talking about what does math look like at elementary, middle, and high. And already, I mean, naturally, you brought out the theme that in all 3 we talked about the importance is that relationship with the kids. That you're not going to get very far without building that. And it's, so talk about like
especially to take risks.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yeah, especially in Calc 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, what are other ways that you try to encourage that in your classroom and build that culture of this is a safe space and the whole mindset?
Yeah.
Math.
Well, it's interesting. The Calc kids will do whatever you tell them to do because they're AP bound, they're college bound, they're so driven in that sense. But they're driven for, and it's kind of sad for me to see, they're driven for the grade. They're driven, and I'm not saying it for all of my kids, but as a general speaking, they're in class because they've succeeded. They know where they're going. They have their end game, and with scholarships tied to GPA, scholarships tied to credits, colleges tied to ACT, SAT, AP tests. They always want to go, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? And then on the flip side, my freshman, sophomore classes, that it's a slower pace route. A lot of times those students, school is not on their forefront. They have some other things going on outside of the school borders, which I deem as their safe home. And then sometimes you don't know what you're getting on the outside. So for them, it's not what's in it for me. They just already say there's nothing in it for me. So a very interesting kind of coin flip. The Calc kids were going to be like, what's in this for me? And none of that can mean what am I supposed to learn? It's what's my futuristic end game. So they're missing the boat on the math because some of them just say, so I'm supposed to get the 5 on the AP test, which is this Monday. So we're a little stressed out. And then I go to this college and I become this engineer and then this is my route. And I'm like, no, let's just play and learn. No. Well, is this on the test? Oh. And then on the flip side, those that don't want to engage, if I only talked math to my freshman sophomore class, there'd be a wall. It'd just be I don't hear you. You mean nothing to me. And so for them, what's more important is the relationship part and building that relationship, building that trust, letting them know that I'm here for you for non-math purposes, just to be a stable model for them, hopefully. Then all of a sudden what happens is like I talked to a couple kids and they're ditching second hour. They're missing fourth hour and they're like, I'll be there, Balk. I'll be there third. I'm like, why? I'll just be there. And they won't say, I respect you. They won't necessarily say, I owe it to you. But it's in just our eyeballs and our communication, just, I got you. And so all of a sudden, I think they see not what's in it for me. They, I think, see, man, this guy's providing a lot. And I don't know why he's providing this for me. But he's setting this huge table and there's snacks and desserts and food and love and care and hugs, and this isn't normal. I guess I'll come sit at the table. And so it's interesting on that, and it's a challenge each day going from seniors to freshmen, going from Calc 3 to the slower geometry class. But I love it because it keeps me on my toes. The PD that I teach for the district, I'm bringing it into my high school. And so I'm going to be teaching the same story, K through 12. Now it's going to be K through 12 plus teenagers are going to be in that same kind of sector. And I'm going to be teaching a class. And it was interesting. I was promoting it to my junior, senior Calc class. And I had 2 different reactions. The seniors were like, oh, why wasn't this offered like last year? I would have loved that. And one student even said, I'm just so tired of the linear, like just the structure of math and what's the end goal and what's the answer. And there's no playing anymore. There's no puzzles. There's no riddles. It's just here's a formula, plug and chug. And that's all we've been taught, is how to grind through that, again, because there's some futuristic end goal. And this sounds like just play. And then a junior in my class was, so what's the test situation look like? And is it an AP class? Will it give me a bump on my GPA? How will this look? How does this look for my valedictorian run? Describe that to me. I'm like, well, it's not AP. It's not a bump on your GPA. And I have no idea how we're going to structure this because I just want to play. And so not to fault that student, because that's the system that we're in. You got to play that game to get the scholarship, to get the ticket, the golden ticket to go wherever college you want. But it just saddens me that you talk to a 5-year-old, hey, you want to play? Sure. You want to play with math? Sure. Like, math is a good word when you're young. And then in high school or older, when we get jaded by it, it's, you want to play a game? I'm too old for games. It's a math game. What? Oh, like you already have kids that question gamehood. That's not fun. Yeah. And then you just added the word math on top of that. That's not what I do. So it's an interesting thing that that end game has driven so many to very successful things. But if you just say, can we just stop and play? They don't know how to idle. If you will, like, if I'm not driving 60 miles an hour down the route that I've set, what's the purpose? Where on the flip side, some kids go, I don't drive anywhere. I don't have a goal. So then if you can kind of spark anything in them, it's kind of fun to watch them take off.
Yeah. So this provokes a question. So when you are teaching, let's say calc, and you have an administrator or one of your colleagues walk in and they see kids playing games, do they have wonderings for you? Do they have questions for you about, is this rigorous math? Is there an underlying assumption that if you're playing, it's not rigorous?
So I've been there 10 plus years, and I'm pretty known in the school as the crazy, energetic person. But what's nice is I built the rapport within my faculty as well. When people come in, it's like, what is this now? And they're kind of scared because they know, I know you're trying to tease me into playing this said game, but I know I have an end game behind it going, oh, there's so much math to this. Case in point, the PD with tic-tac-toe. I introduced in that K through 12 system, so we're going to play tic-tac-toe. And everyone's like, tic-tac, like that was like when we were 5 and everything's the cat's game. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I made them play tic-tac-toe and play tic-tac-toe and play tic-tac-toe. And my ultimate setup was I wanted them to build a playbook, a stapled deep playbook of, okay, if you go here, I'm going to go here. Oh, you countered with that. I'm going to go here. And there's actually different ways to win that people had never discovered before. Or there's a way that the second person who normally is just crossing their fingers for a cat's game, there's a way the second person can lure the first person into a trap and actually might be able to win. It's a small chance, but I want the strategy. I don't want to just blindly play games and hope for the best. There's always what's the strategy now? Why? And again, it's kind of back to that word why. And don't get me wrong, there's tons of math in my room. What normally happens inside my room is that, like, I just got super giddy. A week ago, I finally got my request for another 8-foot whiteboard. So I have 4 8 to 12 foot whiteboards in my class, plus a chalkboard in the back, plus my smartboard. And so it's all encompassing. And really what happens is, like, before the bell rings, I'm already posting a problem up on the board and I'm like, go. So when kids walk in, they drop off their backpacks. They know they're not supposed to get kind of settled and comfy in their seats and just kind of hide. It's like, no, go to the boards. And then I sit in the middle, or a lot of times I stand on the desk and walk around because I get a better visual cue to what's going on the whiteboards. But for them, presenting on their whiteboards, at first it can be daunting. It's like, you want me to be public, you want me to be a presenter to the world. But what they get kind of trained in is, I'm on a whiteboard, I don't feel isolated. Again, it's all about family, relationships. It is okay to look at someone else's whiteboard versus it might feel not allowed if you're more at your desk and paper pencil, and that feels not okay. But if we're up at the whiteboard standing, collaborating, talking, what'd you get? Oh, that makes sense. And then it's very easy to hit pause and say, everyone look around the room. Does everyone see the same mistake that happened? And all of a sudden, instead of you living in your own little bubble, I think I'm the only one making this mistake, I'm embarrassed. Now it's all of a sudden like, guys, look, all of you made the same mistake. That's amazing. That's awesome. Let's talk about it. All of a sudden, then it's not calling you out. It's showcasing to the world, this is a classic mistake that everyone makes. Let's celebrate it and let's modify it and let's fix it. And so I think when it goes public, at first they're worried. Even my freshmen, sophomores, I have them go up to the boards as well. But when you build the family orientation to it, it's not me against the world. It's, hey, the family's doing this as a family. It's a family vacation in a sense up there. And then it makes me really giddy when kids go home and they're like, Mom, Dad, for my birthday, can I have a whiteboard? And then at parent-teacher conferences, I'll meet parents and they're like, so thanks, I guess. We have a 8-foot whiteboard in the basement. And now a lot of kids are coming over in the evening to work on math together as like a team, I think. That's what you wanted? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And again, back to the parents part too. It's like, that's not what I did.
Right.
I was paper pencil. That math is paper pencil, not whiteboards and expos. So,
Tracy talked about that, making math vertical, and as part of what she's working on in her classroom. She used the COVID screens, so it could be vertical.
I like the name of that, vertical versus the horizontal. Just like, and when you horizontal, it really feels like you're just diving right into your own.
And it's
world.
solo.
It is.
Horizontal is solo, whereas vertical is much more team.
Yeah. I like the name of that, vertical.
Well, that was from Building Thinking Classrooms from Peter. Peter Littlejohn's book. Okay. Yeah. This is the vertical non-permanent surfaces. Ooh. This is official.
Wow, official terminology.
VNPs, I think, is the actual term.
I'll just stick with vertical. Sorry, Peter, but vertical sounds a little bit easier for me. But I like that.
I think it's been huge for me too, because I think there's a little less pressure with a whiteboard, because even a paper and pencil, even when I erase, there's still some evidence that something was there. I feel like it's kind of released the kids to realize, even though I encourage them not to erase, because you can learn as much from the mistakes you make on your board. But there's occasionally computation error. Okay, I'm going to erase that, try again. And now the evidence that I ever made a mistake is gone. And there's a little less pressure, I feel like.
I like that too. There is the residual on the paper. Which is good, like track your journey. But for kids, especially too, maybe in the, we're at a different state of mind where we can understand we should learn from our mistakes. And they're like, I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want to make it public. So anything scribbly all over the paper lowers their self-esteem. But that whiteboard just, all right, let's start fresh.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Well, I know that you pull from a lot of other resources too, and you brought one with you today too. So talk about some of the places that you find, like a lot of it comes from your brain, I know, because I've been in your class. And
clearly
I know
the butt slide formula, that was right in your brain.
Well, and I know Nate's good too about, like, we start here and he has a general idea of where we're going, and then we end up somewhere totally different. So... But I know you do use other resources and stuff like that, other games. Like, what are some of your other favorite things to pull from?
So the Twitter world is huge, and like people can go down rabbit holes of social media and like, what's your purpose for social media? But the math blog sphere is incredible.
Active.
It's very active. And it could be more active than other subjects in teaching, because I think we feel it. We feel... We're being attacked on the mundaneness of math, and either you love it or you hate it, and we can't change your story. We can't change you from a hate to a love. So we feel the rigorness of that. So I think it's very loud, the Twitter world. But then what's nice is there's been a rise in board games since the 90s on, where I think it's been not just the simple Monopoly games where you roll the dice and you move around the board and it's all luck based. I've been very intrigued by the board games. A lot are coming out of Germany. Settlers of Catan, Ticket to Ride. A lot of these games that it's not luck. And it's not, you just roll the dice and you have no say in if you should win or not. The dice tell you for you. So the last 30 years, board games are making a comeback. And it's a different type of board game than what we knew from roll the dice and move around the board, the Saris of the 1980s and 90s or whatnot. They're more strategy based. There's new co-op games. I really find right now I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old at my house. And they love to win. And yay, but it's hard because it's about the competition and not
somebody has to lose.
Yeah. Right. So we're getting into co-op games at my house where it's our family against the board. And the games are built so it's a collaboration. There'd be us three playing the game. You can talk during the game. Again, relationships, family, communication. Do that, and then I think I can do this, and then maybe we can come around at this side. And again, it's teamwork. And maybe back to that horizontal and vertical. The board games of Monopoly and Clue, it's very much I roll my dice, I look at my things, and that feels, again, paper, pencil, horizontal. Or the vertical of we're on this together.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's now let's have eyeballs on each other and talk through the game. I'm fascinated by in our town we have some like board game cafes, and I'm fascinated by it. And I just
my husband's there tonight.
Oh, good for him. I asked my students at school, like, what'd you do this weekend? And too often it's stayed up all night watching Netflix and playing video games. Oh, was your friend next to you? No, I was online, of course. And when they hear stories of what'd you do? Well, we had 4 families over at our house. That meant we had 15 kids at our house that are 10 and under, and then 8 adults. And first off, before I even tell what else we did, it's 15 kids, 8 adults. That's a horrible ratio. I'm like, you're doing that. Good work. But the kids play, they play, and then as they're winding down, we'll put on a movie for them or something. But then it's a chance for us, adults, and we play a big game, together. And so when people look at the Oscars and the Emmys, there's board game awards. And I'm like, and my wife's like, what's up? Well, there's the awards just came out, and I know 2 of them. We own one of them, so I might have to go purchase the other one, and then I got to research this third one that took 3rd place, but it's getting a lot of reviews. So strategy, board game, collaboration, family, that style is huge for me. Just ways where it feels like you say you're tricking people into playing math. Because all of a sudden that was a fun game. Do you know how much math was in that? Yeah. Don't say the word. No, there was a lot. Don't say it. You were just mentioning too, right? Tell the story
math
about.
Math can't be fun.
Yeah, it can't be fun. You're tricking me. What were you telling me about?
Well, yeah, I was saying that after taking your class and after reading Math Recess, Sunil's book, that I had put together a bunch of games that we were going to play this year. Yep. And every time we played, I would tell them they had to keep track of their strategy. And they would have to, like, their goal was ultimately, we were playing games where there was a winner loser, and their ultimate goal was they'd know they figured out the strategy if they could beat me, because I usually knew the strategy. And so later in the year, after we did this 3 or 4 times, by the 4th time they're like, can't we just play the game? Do we have to like track the strategy? And
it's interesting that I can't. Like when anything I play, there's 2 games in my head. I'm playing with my 5-year-old and just kind of watching him play and learn a certain game. And I'm learning how he learns. I'm watching that, but in my head, I'm playing a second game behind it going like, if I did this and this and this, and I want to know. And so I have a new book called Math Games with Bad Drawings. It's by Ben Orlin. It's his 3rd book. I always kind of laugh because it reminds me of the Beatles. There's like the blue album, the red album, the white album for the Beatles. He has a blue book, a red book, and a yellow book. That's how I describe it to my teammates at school. So anyways, this book is another thing that I gravitate towards. 75 and 1/4 games. Sorry if I messed that up. I still don't know why there's a 1/4 game, but again, good job, Ben. You're intriguing me. But they're all basically paper pencil games that you would play on a napkin at a restaurant, or verbal games where you're just doing a counting game. First one to 21. You count by 2s, I count by 3s. Who can win? That type of thing. Simple, quick. games that we all know. The box game where you put on a napkin and you draw a line, I draw a line, you draw a line, and if I ever cover in a box, I get a shaded in, and it's my turn again. And those games are on like napkins or on placemats for kids at restaurants. So he teaches the game. He tells the background story of here's the person that invented it, and they did so much more. It wasn't a one-time hit. They did this and this and this, and you're like, whoa. So little games that you might say, oh, anyone can invent that. When you find out that the creator of that game did this and this and this in a different field, in a different realm, and it was historically relevant in other avenues, you're like, whoa. Then the games, they give variations to it. So instead of going like you said, when you mastered the game and now you can beat me, good for you. Here's a variation, new game, new rule. What do you mean new rule? I just mastered the first game. Exactly. So we have to tweak it. I think someone once told me, like, if you master a game, it turned into a nice little riddle. But if you can modify it, it becomes a game again. And that kind of journey of, here's a game. Oh, I've mastered it. That was a cute little riddle. Well, here's a tweak. Oh, it's a game again.
Yeah.
And I mastered it. Well, here's a new tweak. Oh, you keep doing this to me, and I love it. And so this book is actually going to be my textbook next year for math symposiums in my classroom with my students. And it'll be used in the PD for the teachers as well. And it'll be interesting to bring a book to the table for my students. And then I'll say, like, hey, your homework tonight is to read about this game, the history of this game, play it with your mom and dad or friend, and write up a little thought process journal on it. What?
Yeah, my homework is to play?
You want me to play? You want me to read, play, analyze, and then write a paper? And those of them, any of them are, if they watch this, they might now like unsign up for the class. Like, this is not what I signed up for. But I want that to be a thing. We, again, talked earlier about the books that kids just carry around with them with compassion. And like, I'm reading this new series, and I love it, and the next book's coming out. For me, I geeked out when I knew this was coming out, and I pre-ordered it, and then talked to my math department head, like, so I got one. Can we get like 25? Like more? And just, yeah, I'm a geek. I'm a nerd in that realm. But I think when I showed it to some of my kids in class, they're like, what is it?
Right.
And now we're playing on the board just at lunchtime, just quick games that are 2 minutes long. And they're like, and again, kind of back to, am I only a game player? Or as long as you build the relationship and tell them how my brain works, it's down a rabbit hole. Like how often, like you said, I have an agenda for our PD, and then it's like, and we went off on a deep end somewhere else. That's okay, because that journey again through the math takes you to places that textbooks can't. Because when it's, here's the formula on page 8, here's 10 problems on page 9, next, we've lost the story. And if you don't have the story, then there's no reason to remember it. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Like, and it's making me think about my own experience as a mathematician, that I did pretty well, and I made the comment early on about until I got to geometry, because I could not connect the boxes with a purpose. It didn't have a story attached to it when I was taught geometry. And so then as an adult, my husband and I are landscaping our backyard, and we're trying to figure out how much rock to order, for a certain area. And I look at it and I go, oh, no, it looks like it's about 10 tons. It's like, there's some math behind that where you can actually figure out like how much we need for here. And I was like, I never had that story to attach the why to why I needed to understand geometry.
And I think that's the flaw of our math structure. I was talking to my math colleagues at school, and we were talking about, okay, how do you see math in high school changing in the next 20 years? And I think that's going to be a huge change. And they're like, why would there be? It's going to be the same as it was 40 years ago. Algebra, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, calc, AP stats maybe. And that's what we do. And it won't change maybe because of SATs and ACTs and the AP structure. And I go, but computers are here. Technology has changed. There's so much in your cell phone right at your hands.
And
things are changing.
Are becoming test optional.
Yes. And so there's no change. And so this class that I'm teaching next year, I am so giddy for it because I'm breaking the structure of the linearity of, like, freshmen come in. So Mr. Balk, I'm in algebra now, and then it's geometry, and then algebra 2, and I know the route. And this is our first math elective class. And when you think about...
I can't name any other math elective classes.
You can't. And that's a huge flaw. And I pride our school in how many electives there are and how many different avenues that kids can take, where it's not just, well, this is you take English, math, science, social studies, repeat. Social studies, is it Civil War? Is it World War I, World War II? Is it modern? Is it historical? Is it Europe? There's so many different histories that you can tell. In English, hey, we're doing nonfiction, we're doing fiction, we're doing mysteries, we're doing poetry, we're doing creative writing. Tell your own story. Whoa. In our sciences, and again, sciences kind of have that same thing too. Earth science, biology, chemistry, physics, they have a class, forensics, and they play with criminal investigation scenes. That is amazing, and it's tangible, and it's that story part. And so for us, this first math elective class, open-ended, so many different things that I want to take them to, but all of a sudden it won't be, it'll break the mold of,
right,
it's supposed to be linear. I'm supposed to know and it shouldn't be. There should be so many math elective classes out there, but it's not. And I think that's the fault to the math-brained structure of our society, that those that are the math teachers were very... And so we just kind of keep it that same way. We're slicing bread, and algebra 1 bread, algebra 2 bread, that type of thing. And so I think with
you're introducing sourdough now.
Yeah, sourdough. Exactly. I love it.
Not pre-sliced.
Not pre-sliced. Yeah. How do I cut this thing open?
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking of all the math behind the crust of that thing. So that's a perfect example. And I do think that Twitter world of the mathematicians out there are trying to scream as loud as they can in a safe forum. It's out there. There's, I think of the little libraries in the neighborhoods. There's places out there that are starting to make little math libraries. And at first glance, you're like, this isn't going to fly. But it's all of a sudden like a little instruction pamphlet and a separate piece of paper to how to fold an origami. And you go, that's not math. No, that's a lot of math. And so out there now, where people probably thought it'll never take off, the little free reading libraries where you can be in the neighborhood and grab a book, donate a book, that type of thing. There's now places out there that have like little math resources. And I bring it back to how many kids at the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they love to play. They love games. They love puzzles. And how often you talk to elementary kids and they like math. And then when I see them, they're like, I don't like math. I'm like, what just happened? And it's not the fault of the teachers through the system in a sense. It's somehow what we present is math is not fun. It's not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to just be, here's the formula, go get it. Okay, let's take a test. Or that's what the outside world again thinks it should be. And so when you bring the flavor into it, the sourdough, that's not bread. No, it is bread. No, just give me plain white or wheat, or just don't sour it. So I don't know.
Well, this has been a great discussion. We can go on forever because I'm always inspired every time I'm with you, Nate. It makes me want to learn even more math.
Right.
Yeah, we will in a couple weeks.
I will. Exactly. Yeah. I'm signed up for summer.
Don't ask me where we're going yet because I have no idea. But we'll go somewhere. So.
I know I get at least 2 days. Actually, I think I signed up for 3 because I signed up for your Desmos class too. So, because I haven't played with that very much in my class. So, yeah. So, in 5th grade is kind of the beginnings. I feel like.
Desmos is huge on that. Very visual, very.
Beginning of linear, graphing linear equations kind of stuff.
And it helps move. That's the whole thing is it's not just, here's my line, all of a sudden the line moves and you go, oh, I can animate. Yeah. Which is, again, very mathematical, but people don't realize that.
Yeah, so. I had like an aha moment the other day, too, with that, because I was trying to figure out how I could, we just finished that unit, and the situations in our book are not great.
Okay.
And I heard somebody say the other day, it was like going, like, why could you not talk about Cold Stone in your class? And every time you add a topping, how does that increase the cost of your ice cream? And I was like, oh my God, they could totally relate to that. So I'm already thinking, like,
good.
How can I redo that unit next year to make it, maybe we can go actually
then you go get ice cream.
Yeah. There's a story.
There's a story. That's a story that's needed. So.
Yeah. But so we like to share top tweet of the week, and you're welcome to join us, Nate, as well, if you want to jump in there. But Tracy, what was your top tweet of the week?
Top tweet of the week, we've talked a little bit about the pandemic and how it's changed things. One of the things that's changed across a lot of schools is not having assemblies, like bringing all of the kids together into one room for an assembly. And so it made it really hard to have some of that whole school community things that we would do pre-pandemic. But people got really creative and found ways to create, community through either, Zooming an assembly or different things like that. But I saw like kind of an on-the-fly like awards ceremony at lunch at one of our elementary schools where they were having kids who were receiving an award come and stand on a chair in the lunchroom, and then the whole grade, would applaud. And the award was a key, and it was, just like the Ace Hardware key, and it was one of the keys to future success. And so, like, demonstrating a particular, habit or character trait, and so they got that particular key to future success. And I thought, that's a really great connection for kids to have that, physical representation of, this is something that's important later in life, as well as that. Yeah. And it matters. And that, celebratory environment at lunch that, typically in the past we wouldn't have done that.
Right.
Yeah.
I like how the key looks like a key should open a door. Which door, you don't know yet, but it's around your chest. And as you walk, it's kind of a symbolism of, there's a door out there somewhere for me to take and open and explore.
Right. So. Yeah, and it just starts to, particularly that I have potential. Like it really starts to craft that, mindset about I've got potential.
Yeah,
absolutely. My top tweet, I always kind of throw in a personal one in there too, but it's always school related because I still have a kid in the high school. And we got the chance to, I tweeted earlier this week that we got to go see the musical that they did this year, and it was a full cast again. So again, post-COVID, last year they did a musical. It was only 7 kids in it, super small cast, great show. But this time it was like 40 plus kids on stage dancing and singing together, and to be back, to feel like we were back in a normal world again was amazing. So that was fun last weekend. And then, but as far as classroom goes, we did a science field trip this week. Again, another post-COVID, like, hallelujah, we get to go. Ours was just a walking field trip, which is super meaningful because the city that we live in, the utilities department actually will come out, and they have a whole education department. And they came out and took the kids across the street to the stream that's in our school's neighborhood. It's in our watershed that we live in. And they had the opportunity to put on waders and get in the water and catch critters, catch macroinvertebrates, and keep track. And then they had, their charts to kind of track the health of the stream that's right there in our neighborhood. So just an amazing opportunity to, work with people from our community. They did a huge emphasis on, if you like to do, like, think about all the things we did today, and if you like doing this, then here's how that could translate to a career. If you like this part of what we did today, here's a different career. And talking too, just even about like fire ecology. There was so many. They do an amazing job, and the kids had a blast, because what kid does not want to get in and play in the mud? And,
usually their teacher is telling them, stop playing.
Yeah, don't get in the water. Back away.
Everybody's telling them not to, and then this is like, please go.
Yep. So a walking field trip across the street was just exactly what was needed to get out.
Nice.
Beautiful spring weather too. So
the weather has been nice. My tweet, mathematician tweeted about math art, and picture a circle. Think of like a clock, and every hour or every half hour on the clock, put a nail in, all the way around. So like, think of a piece of wood, circle wood, nail, have about 24 different nails in it. And then based off the pattern of where you attach the string and skip a few, skip a few, skip a few, skip a few, and just running that string all the way around. And there's a formula to it. There's a background story to it, but there's a huge play element. String art, string art, string art, go all the way around, and it makes a beautiful design. Then that segued into another tweet that followed up with it, where someone built it on Desmos and did the same string art in the Desmos atmosphere of how to make that animated. And they built it that way. And you can do a little slider and watch not one string, but 500 strings go at once, and you build the pattern. And then that leads into Calculus 2 and cardioids, and something I'm teaching in my class currently right now. And so kind of with that math PD world of where I'm trying to go from K through 12, the artwork design to it, the pattern design to it, perfect for elementary. The hands-on part to it, and they can do the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They can do 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. They can do that pattern, and that makes a new design. That new design I can teach middle school, like you're saying, you're starting to get into Desmos now, middle school and high school, how to put that on Desmos, and what you were doing with string, physically with hands, how you can put it on the computer screen. And then the math behind it is actually a huge concept in Calculus 2 that we're doing in a polar world. And so right there, my mind was lost for a while, and I was in a rabbit hole of how do I apply this right now in my class? How do I apply this for PD in 2 weeks? How do I apply this to my futuristic classes? And how do I not even apply it to anyone but just me so I can have fun? So getting lost can be fun like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we always like to end our podcast with our chocolate barometer, and Tracy knows best. She can explain again kind of the rationale behind our chocolate barometer.
So the chocolate barometer stemmed from the drawer of chocolate that we had in the office, and the frequency at which teachers would come and grab chocolate out of the drawer often indicated how hard a week they were having. So the more trips to the chocolate drawer, the harder the week was. So my office manager and I would always gauge, like, oh, we got to tune into this culture phenomenon going on this week that the chocolate drawer is getting really low. So we know that teaching is complex. We're at a time of year where it, can be difficult, but I think, it's one of the things that we do to kind of just check in, like, how you doing? So how was your week on the chocolate barometer scale of 1 to 10?
10 being a lot.
Like
let's say like a 9, because let's see, one of my kids was sick earlier in the week and just had a cold, and so she snuck into our bed, but then 2 more kids snuck into our bed. So starting the week on Sunday night, we had 5 of us in one bed, and then 2 of them left the next day, but for the next 3 nights, the 3-year-old was still in our bed, just not feeling good and just kind of down for the count. Then on the flip side, my window to my car, the gear part to when it lowers and raises broke. And I was halfway done fixing it, but I needed one more part. So I'm like, I think it's fine for the next day. But as I'm driving to school, it was the day of rain, and my window just kept sliding down. And so I'm trying to drive.
We haven't had rain in months.
We don't have rain in months until the day. And so I'm just driving and watching it go down. And people watching me from stoplights. I'm just trying to lift it up. Then I get to school. I lift it up, close the door. But as you close the door, it causes a little shift, and it went down again. I'm like, okay. So I'm eating chocolate, and it has nothing to do with school at all. But then our AP test in Calc is next Monday, and so I walk in, and I'm like, okay, I can breathe. And then it's like, Balk! So just the prep work inside that for Monday, on top of lack of sleep and windows to car doors. So a 9, but I love chocolate, so it's okay. That's the win of it. Is if you told me the other way, if a hard week was you only got 1 chocolate, then that would be worse.
I love chocolate too, and so it seemed to be an appropriate metaphor to talk about how difficult it was your week.
Absolutely.
How about you, Tracy? How was your week?
Oh gosh, I'm probably in the 8 range. Although there's been a lot of chocolate to be had this week. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, so the lounge has been filled with it. So there's been no end to what you could eat this week. Candy
bars are really big for Teacher Appreciation Week. I've seen a lot of candy bars around.
We started human growth and development this week.
Oh.
So with fifth graders.
Well,
and
that's an
always
8 for
fun.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that happened this week, and field trip this week. And so yeah, just a lot. It was our last quote unquote normal week before things really go haywire with the end of the school year. But it was still by far not normal.
So that's hard. That's hard on everybody. Yeah. This is definitely the time of year where schedule and structure disappear for a little while. My week was actually not. It was the more time I get to spend in schools, the better the week is, because it means I'm in meetings less. So it was probably about a 5 on the chocolate barometer, that I got to spend a lot of time in schools and just see great teaching in action, and really excited kids, like engaged kids, and really enjoying learning and talking about their learning and their thinking. So that was a pleasure for me. I really enjoyed it this week.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us again on this episode this week of Teachers Talking Teaching.
If you want to continue watching our podcast, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.